again, where we get it wrong when we're hiring out of desperation is that we're trying to rush the process. And so we don't build relationships. And it starts with this core confusion we have in business around what it is that we do when we're recruiting. We think the purpose of recruiting is to hire PTs. That's what we think the purpose is. And that's where we're so wrong. The purpose of recruiting is to help people find their dream job, wherever it is, with us or somebody else, through relationships. That's the purpose. And then the product, the result of that effort, something we measure, is two things. The key statistics are number of A players on our team greater than 6 months and number of potential hires waiting to join our team and our network. So again, the thing I always tell people is that it's really about building this large bench of PTs that would work for us in a moment's notice. And I know that sounds like insane, but it's true. With the right relationship, I mean, I don't know. Think of one of your heroes. If they were a PT and they wanted you to go work for them, you would stop everything. If you're fortunate enough to work with your heroes, you're in the great place. So that's why we get it so wrong. The purpose, again, is to help PTs find their ideal fit through relationships. And then our product is the number of A players on our team who've been with us more than 6 months and the number of PTA players waiting to be hired. So it's a little overwhelming for us to think about that, because then it becomes this whole thing of like, wow, that's so different than what we do. And that's a good thing to feel that, because that is very different than what we do. Recruiting is a daily effort. And when I say that, I know that's like, well, where the crap am I going to find time for that? And so when I describe the relationship piece that Mark talked about, I'm hoping that it will open in your mind this like what's possible around not having it be hard, because it's not hard. Recruiting is easy. It is. Recruiting is so easy, especially because it's so hard to find PTs, especially because everyone else in the competitive market is doing the exact same thing, trying to hire them. So when you can be 1 degree different, you're in a totally different landscape. Think about pilots. If they're 1 degree off in their navigation, fast forward 2,000 miles, they are hundreds or thousands of miles away from their destination. So if everyone else is 1 to 10 degrees off of what they should be doing in recruiting and you're on course, you'll be extremely efficient and powerful and standing out. And so the one thing I will say though, is that it takes time. So it's daily efforts compounded over time. And I'll share a quick story. So I've mentioned to this group before the difficulties I had in recruiting. I'm not naturally good at recruiting. Again, I don't know what I'm naturally good at. I'm just very trainable, which I'll take. I'm a very trainable person. I like that. But here's what I know. I almost walked away from the entire profession because I couldn't recruit. I could not for the life of me find a PT in Florence. And then I hired coaches like I always do. And I learned and I implemented and I figured it out. And it was so powerful that Michelle was there like pre and post. The post wasn't like, oh, we're not thinking about it or talking about it all the time. It was still this effort, but we knew the point when we were on the other side of that effort, when it was easy to we never worked because all the pain wasn't there. We could confront employees who were not doing what they were supposed to do. We were able to talk about expansion from a place of well, we could put that person there. And then at the end of the day, so here's how I did it. Here's how I did it kind of as a case study. I was taught the importance of tackling people at the university level. That was the main thing I was focused on. The second thing I was taught was to send out regular communication to my network of PTs in the state of Arizona. That's the only place I did. I bought a list for $500 of the emails in Arizona for all the PTs and PTAs. There was roughly 4,000, 5,000. I was shocked at the hires I got just from starting to leverage that. It didn't solve my problem. It wasn't the long-term solution, but every 6 to 8 weeks, which was, I realize now, way too much time in between emails, I would have emailed them weekly if I had known then what I know now. I would have emailed everybody every week, and it would have been this thing. Not everything's a call to action. I talk about this in Rockstar. It's 3 to 1. We create value 3 times over, and then we ask for something once. There's always a call to action at the end of the email, but the first 3 emails could be simply hey, it's physical therapy month. Here's some ideas. If you want to talk about these ideas, give me a call. Just anything and everything, every holiday that's coming up. It can be an update on the industry. It can be something that your team is doing. This is one of my favorite things would be we had a really cool culture those last 3-4 years to where we were doing some unbelievable charity work. So we would just talk about the charity. Hey, listen, usually I send information on PTs, but we're talking about how to feed starving children in Africa. Here's what our team is doing about that. And we want you guys to support this if you'd like. I would do occasional emails like that, but in a weekly cycle, That's very doable. And PTs are so terrified. Like fear runs our industry so much that the first thought that comes up on any client in Rockstar is like, I don't want to be that annoying person. I don't want to be that annoying person. I don't want to be seen as spam. And I'm like, then don't spam them. You're not illegally buying a list and just throwing out emails saying, buy my product. We're getting a state board of physical therapy list, and we're supporting the industry, and then occasionally saying, by the way, are you happy where you are? If not, we're looking for a great PT. And if you're wondering why we're only looking for one PT right now when we have 50 team members, I'd like to explain to you why most people don't leave us. Those types of emails are like, what the crap? I had a PT, I think I've said this to this group, but I had a guy out of Flagstaff, which is like way out of where our company was. I met him at some conference in a different state, and he was just like, oh my gosh, you're that Rise Rehab guy. And I went, yeah. And I was like scared he was going to yell at me for spamming. He's like, dude, I've always thought your company would be so cool to work for. I was like, all right, okay. Like that's when I started seeing the fruits. And yeah, some people are like, how did you get my email? Some PTs are just so funny, but like they're very few and far between. Email campaigns are so easy to set up and run. If you don't know how to do them, I spell it out down to how to set up an account in MailChimp in Rockstar. So that was that piece.